My name's John, and I've been married to Lisa for 12 years. We've got two kids, Jack and Emily, who mean the world to me. I thought we had a good thing going. I worked hard to provide for my family, and Lisa was always there, supporting me and taking care of the kids. But lately, things have been different. It all started a few months ago. Lisa had been working late a lot more than usual. She'd come home with some excuse about an important meeting or a last-minute project. I didn't think much of it at first. I mean, she's always been dedicated to her job. Her boss, Mr. Thompson, seemed like a decent enough guy. He'd even been over to the house a few times for dinner. But then, Lisa started acting strange. She was more distant, more secretive. She'd always been pretty open with her phone and emails, but now she kept her phone on her at all times, and I'd catch her texting late at night. When I'd ask her about it, she'd get defensive, telling me I was being paranoid. One night she came home late again, smelling like she'd bathed in perfume. I asked her what was going on, and she snapped at me, saying she didn't have time for my jealous nonsense. That's when I started to get suspicious. I remember that night clearly. Jack and Emily were already in bed, and I was sitting in the living room, waiting for Lisa to come home. When she finally walked through the door, it was nearly midnight. Her hair was a mess, and she looked flushed. "Where have you been?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. "At work," she replied, not meeting my eyes. "Until midnight? Come on, Lisa, I'm not stupid." She rolled her eyes. "John, I don't have time for this. I had a meeting with Mr. Thompson, all right? It ran late." "Really? Because it looks like you had more than just a meeting." Lisa glared at me. "You're being ridiculous. I can't believe you don't trust me." It hurt to hear her say that. I wanted to trust her, I really did, but something just didn't feel right. "Maybe if you were around more, you'd understand," she added, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "I'm working my ass off to support this family, Lisa. What more do you want from me?" She didn't answer. Instead, she just stormed off to the bedroom, slamming the door behind her. I sat there, feeling a knot in my stomach. This wasn't like her. We'd had our fights before, but this felt different. It felt final somehow. That night, as I lay in bed next to her, I couldn't sleep. My mind was racing with thoughts of what she might be hiding. I knew I needed to find out the truth, no matter how much it might hurt. The days after that argument were tense. Lisa was colder than ever, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was seriously wrong. I decided I needed to get to the bottom of it, even if it meant doing things I never thought I'd do. One day, while Lisa was at work, I took her phone when she wasn't looking. I felt guilty, but I had to know. I scrolled through her messages, but she must have deleted anything incriminating. Then I noticed a message from Mr. Thompson about a work meeting that seemed a little too friendly. My heart pounded in my chest as I read it. "Can't wait to see you tonight. Missing you already." I felt sick to my stomach. This was all the proof I needed. But I needed to catch them red-handed, to see it with my own eyes. That's when I decided to follow her the next time she had one of her late-night meetings. A few nights later, she told me she'd be working late again. I pretended to be nonchalant about it, but inside I was seething. After she left, I waited for about 10 minutes before grabbing my keys and heading out the door. I knew where her office was, so I drove there and parked a little down the street, out of sight. Sure enough, her car was still there. I waited, my nerves on edge. Around 9 p.m., I saw her leave the building with Mr. Thompson. They were laughing, and she was hanging onto his arm like a lovesick teenager. I followed them as they got into his car and drove off. My heart raced as I trailed them to a fancy restaurant on the other side of town. They went inside, and I parked a little ways away, watching through the window. They were seated at a cozy corner table, heads close together. It was obvious they were more than just colleagues. My hands clenched the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. I couldn't believe this was happening. The woman I loved, the mother of my children, was cheating on me with her boss. I took a few deep breaths, trying to calm myself. I needed to keep a clear head. I pulled out my phone and snapped a few pictures of them together. It felt like a punch to the gut, but I needed evidence. I watched them for a while, my anger simmering. Eventually, they got up and left the restaurant. I followed them to a nearby hotel. That was the final straw. I couldn't watch anymore. I drove home in a daze, my mind reeling from what I'd just seen. When Lisa came home later that night, I pretended to be asleep. I couldn't face her, not after what I'd seen. I knew I needed to confront her, But I needed time to process everything. I needed to figure out what to do next. The next morning, Lisa acted like nothing was wrong. She kissed the kids goodbye and left for work with a smile on her face. I couldn't believe how easily she could lie to our faces. It made me sick. I called in sick to work that day. I needed to think. I spent the day going over everything in my head, trying to figure out my next move. I knew I couldn't stay in this marriage, not after what she'd done. But I had to think about the kids. I had to make sure they were taken care of. That night, I decided to confront her. I couldn't keep this to myself any longer. When she came home, I was ready. I sat her down and showed her the pictures. She tried to deny it at first, but the evidence was too damning. "How could you do this to me? To our family?" I demanded, my voice shaking with anger. She didn't even look sorry. "You don't understand, John. You've been so distant, so wrapped up in your work. I needed someone who was there for me. Don't give me that bullshit. You've been sneaking around behind my back, lying to me and the kids. You're nothing but a liar and a cheat." Her eyes flashed with anger. "Maybe if you'd been a better husband, I wouldn't have had to look elsewhere." That was it. I couldn't take any more. "I'm done, Lisa. I want a divorce." She looked shocked, but I didn't care. I was done being lied to, done being made a fool of. This was the beginning of the end, and I was ready to move on. After our explosive argument, Lisa moved out of the bedroom. She slept in the guest room while I tried to come to terms with what was happening. The atmosphere in the house was tense, and the kids could feel it. They asked me why Mommy was acting so strange, but I couldn't bring myself to tell them the truth. Not yet, anyway. The next few days were a blur. I started looking for a lawyer, knowing I needed to protect myself and the kids. I spent hours on the phone, trying to find someone who could help me navigate the divorce process. Meanwhile, Lisa continued to act like nothing was wrong. She'd go to work, come home, and pretend everything was fine. It made my blood boil. One evening, after the kids were in bed, Lisa came into the living room. "We need to talk," she said, her voice cold. I nodded, bracing myself. "Yeah, we do." She sat down across from me, her arms crossed. "I don't want a divorce, John. We can work through this." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Work through this? You've been cheating on me for months. How do you expect me to trust you again?" She sighed, looking frustrated. "I made a mistake, okay? But we have kids, a family. We can go to counseling, try to fix things." I shook my head. "It's too late for that. You destroyed any chance we had when you decided to betray me. I've already contacted a lawyer." Her eyes widened. "You what?" "I'm filing for divorce, Lisa. I can't stay married to someone who lies and cheats." She stood up, her face red with anger. "Fine. If that's how you want it, then go ahead. But don't think for a second that I'm going to make this easy for you." And with that, she stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind her. I sat there, feeling a mix of anger and sadness. This wasn't how I wanted things to end, but I knew I couldn't stay in a marriage built on lies. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of legal meetings and tense conversations. Lisa made good on her promise to make things difficult. She contested everything, from custody of the kids to the division of our assets. It was a nightmare. One day, I received a call from the kids' school. Jack had gotten into a fight with another boy. I rushed over, worried sick. When I got there, I found Jack in the principal's office, looking defiant. "What happened, buddy?" I asked, kneeling down next to him. "He said Mom's a liar," Jack muttered, his eyes filled with tears. "He said she's a bad person." My heart ached for him. "Come on, let's go home." We drove home in silence. I knew I had to talk to the kids, explain what was happening in a way they could understand. That night after dinner, I sat them down. "Kids, there's something we need to talk about," I began, trying to keep my voice steady. "Mom and I are going through some tough times right now. We both love you very much, but we've decided that it's best for us to live apart." Emily looked confused. "Are you getting a divorce, Daddy?" I nodded, my throat tight. "Yes, sweetheart. But that doesn't mean we don't love you. We'll always be your parents, no matter what." Jack was quiet, his eyes downcast. "Is it because of Mr. Thompson?" I was taken aback. "What do you mean?" "I heard Mom talking to him on the phone. She sounded different." I took a deep breath. "Mom made some mistakes, Jack. But we're going to get through this. I promise." The days that followed were some of the hardest of my life. The kids were confused and hurt, and I felt like I was failing them. Lisa continued to see Mr. Thompson, flaunting their relationship in front of everyone. It was like she didn't care about the damage she was causing. One afternoon, I was at work when I got a call from my lawyer. "John, we've hit a snag," he said, sounding grim. "Lisa's lawyer is claiming that you're an unfit father. They're pushing for full custody." I felt like the ground had been ripped out from under me. What? That's ridiculous. I know, but we need to be prepared. This is going to get messy. I hung up, feeling numb. Lisa was trying to take my kids away from me. I couldn't let that happen. I had to fight for them, no matter what. The custody battle was brutal. Lisa's lawyer painted me as an absent father who prioritized work over family. It was infuriating, especially since I had been the one holding everything together. But Lisa was determined to win, and she was willing to lie to get what she wanted. I gathered every piece of evidence I could to prove my case. I collected testimonies from friends and family who could attest to my involvement in the kids' lives. I dug up emails and text messages showing Lisa's neglect and her affair with Mr. Thompson. It was exhausting and emotionally draining, but I refused to back down. The first court hearing was a nightmare. Lisa sat there looking composed and innocent while her lawyer tore into me. They brought up every little mistake I'd ever made, twisting the truth to make me look bad, but I held my ground, refusing to let them break me. When it was my turn to present my case, I felt a surge of determination. I showed the judge the pictures of Lisa and Mr. Thompson, the late-night texts, and the testimonies from people who knew us. I could see the judge was starting to understand the real story. Lisa, however, was a master manipulator. She broke down in tears, claiming she was the victim in all of this. She said she had felt neglected and unloved, which was why she had turned to Mr. Thompson. It was a load of crap, but she played the part well. After the hearing, I felt drained. I knew this was far from over. I went home and tried to keep things as normal as possible for the kids. They were my anchor, the reason I was fighting so hard. A few days later, I got a call from Lisa. "We need to talk," she said, her voice cold and distant. "About what?" I replied, trying to keep my anger in check. "The kids. I think it's best if they stay with me for a while. They need stability." "Stability? You're the one who tore this family apart," she sighed. "John, be reasonable. They need their mother, and they need their father too," I shot back. The conversation went nowhere, and we ended up yelling at each other. It was clear Lisa was going to make this as hard as possible. I hung up, feeling a mix of anger and despair. How had things gotten this bad? The next day, I decided to pay a visit to Lisa's parents. They had always been supportive, and I hoped they might be able to talk some sense into her. When I arrived, they welcomed me with open arms. "We've heard about everything," Lisa's mom said, looking distressed. "We can't believe what she's doing." "Neither can I admitted. "I need your help. She's trying to take the kids away from me." Her dad nodded. "We'll talk to her. This has gone too far." They promised to do what they could, and for the first time in days, I felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, they could get through to her. A few days later, Lisa's parents called me. They had tried to talk to her, but she refused to listen. "She's convinced she's in the right," her mom said, sounding heartbroken. "We're so sorry, John." I thanked them for trying and hung up. It was clear I was on my own in this fight. The next court hearing was even more intense than the first. Lisa's lawyer continued to paint me as the bad guy, but I fought back with everything I had. I could see the judge was struggling to make a decision. It was a close call, and I knew it could go either way. Finally, the judge spoke. "This is a difficult case. Both parents clearly love their children, but it's clear that the current situation is not sustainable. For the time being, I am awarding temporary joint custody. We will revisit this in 6 months to determine a more permanent arrangement." I felt a mix of relief and frustration. It wasn't the full custody I had hoped for, but at least I wasn't losing my kids completely. I looked over at Lisa, who seemed furious. This battle was far from over. After the hearing, I took the kids home. I sat them down and explained what was happening as best as I could. "You'll be spending time with both Mom and Dad," I said, trying to sound reassuring. "But no matter what, we both love you very much." Jack and Emily nodded, their faces serious. "We know, Dad," Jack said. "We love you too." Hearing those words gave me strength. I knew I had a long road ahead, but I was ready to fight for my kids, no matter what it took. The weeks that followed were challenging, but I clung to the moments I had with my kids. The temporary joint custody arrangement meant I saw them regularly, but it also meant I had to interact with Lisa more than I wanted to. Every drop-off and pickup was an exercise in patience and restraint. One day, while I was picking up the kids from Lisa's house, her boss, Mr. Thompson, showed up. He strutted in like he owned the place, barely acknowledging me. I could see the kids felt uncomfortable around him, which only fueled my anger. "John, we need to talk," he said, motioning me to step outside. I followed him out, my fists clenched. "What do you want?" "Look, I know this situation is complicated," he began, clearly trying to sound diplomatic. "But we need to find a way to make this easier for Lisa." "Make it easier for Lisa?" I repeated, incredulous. "What about the kids? What about me?" He sighed, looking slightly exasperated. "This isn't about you or me. It's about doing what's best for the children." His words made my blood boil. "Don't you dare talk to me about what's best for my kids. You've done enough damage already." He raised his hands in a placating gesture. "I'm not the enemy here, John. Let's try to be civil." I glared at him, wanting to punch him, but knowing it would only make things worse. "Fine, but stay out of my way." I turned and went back inside to get the kids. As we drove home, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Mr. Thompson's sudden interest in being civil seemed suspicious. A few days later, I received a call from an unexpected ally, Lisa's best friend Megan. We had never been particularly close, but she had always been good to the kids. "John, I need to talk to you," she said, her voice urgent. "Can we meet up?" We agreed to meet at a coffee shop the next day. When I arrived, Megan was already there, looking anxious. "What's going on?" I asked, sitting down across from her. She leaned in, lowering her voice. "Lisa doesn't know I'm here, but I had to tell you. She's planning something, John. She's trying to get full custody by proving you're unfit." My heart sank. I know she's been trying to paint me as the bad guy, but what else is she planning? Megan glanced around nervously. "She's been coaching the kids to say things about you, to make you look bad in court. She's desperate, John. She doesn't want to lose." The betrayal stung, but it also steeled my resolve. "Thanks for telling me, Megan. I appreciate it." She nodded. "I care about the kids. They deserve better than to be used as pawns in this mess." I left the coffee shop with a new determination. If Lisa was going to play dirty, I needed to be prepared. I decided to start documenting everything, every interaction, every incident, so I could counter any false claims she might make. The next time I had the kids, I sat them down for a serious talk. "Listen, I know things have been tough lately, but I want you to know that you can always tell me the truth, no matter what." Jack looked up at me with wide eyes. "Are you and Mom going to keep fighting?" I took a deep breath. "We're trying to figure things out, but you two are the most important to us. Never forget that." Emily nodded, looking thoughtful. "We know, Dad." As the weeks passed, I noticed small changes in the kids' behavior. They seemed more cautious around me, like they were afraid to say the wrong thing. It broke my heart, but I tried to stay patient and loving, hoping they would see through Lisa's manipulation. One evening, while the kids were with Lisa, I got a frantic call from Jack. "Dad, Mom's really mad. She and Mr. Thompson are yelling at each other." My heart raced. "Stay in your room, Jack. I'll be right there." I grabbed my keys and drove over to Lisa's house, my mind racing with worry. When I arrived, I could hear the shouting from outside. I knocked on the door and Lisa opened it, looking furious. "What are you doing here?" she snapped. "I got a call from Jack. Is everything okay?" Mr. Thompson appeared behind her, looking equally angry. "This is none of your business, John." "The hell it isn't," I shot back. "Where are the kids?" Lisa glared at me but stepped aside. I found Jack and Emily huddled together in Jack's room, looking scared. "It's okay, kids. I'm here now," I said, hugging them tightly. That night, I took the kids back to my place. I couldn't trust Lisa to keep them safe, not with the way things were escalating. I knew I needed to act fast to protect them, and to finally put an end to this nightmare. The next morning, I contacted my lawyer, filling him in on the latest incident. He agreed that we needed to take immediate action to ensure the kids' safety. We filed an emergency motion for temporary full custody, citing the volatile situation at Lisa's house. The hearing was scheduled for the following week, and I spent the days leading up to it gathering as much evidence as possible. I documented the kids' statements, collected testimonies from neighbors who had heard the arguments, and prepared myself for the battle ahead. On the day of the hearing, I felt a mix of anxiety and determination. I knew this was my chance to protect my children and show the court the truth about Lisa and Mr. Thompson. When we arrived, Lisa was there with her lawyer looking defiant. Mr. Thompson was nowhere to be seen, and I hoped his absence would work in my favor. The hearing began with our lawyers presenting their cases. My lawyer highlighted the incident at Lisa's house and the potential danger it posed to the kids. Lisa's lawyer, on the other hand, tried to downplay the situation, arguing that it was a one-time occurrence and that Lisa was still a fit mother. Then it was my turn to speak. I took a deep breath and recounted everything: the affair, the lies, the manipulative behavior, and the recent argument that had scared the kids. I spoke from the heart, hoping the judge would see how much I loved my children and how committed I was to their well-being. Lisa had her chance to speak as well. She tried to defend herself, painting me as an overreactive and controlling husband, but her arguments felt hollow, and I could see the judge was not convinced. After what felt like an eternity, the judge made a decision. Given the evidence presented, I find it in the best interest of the children to grant temporary full custody to Mr. John Smith. We will reassess the situation in 6 months. Mrs. Smith will have supervised visitation rights. I felt a surge of relief wash over me. It wasn't over, but it was a victory. I glanced at Lisa, who looked shocked and defeated. She didn't say a word as we left the courtroom. When we got home, I sat the kids down and explained the situation. "You'll be staying with me for now," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "But you'll still see Mom, just with someone else there." Jack and Emily nodded, looking a bit relieved. "Okay, Dad," Jack said. "We trust you." Life slowly started to settle into a new routine. The kids adjusted to the changes, and I did my best to create a stable and loving environment for them. I knew the battle wasn't over, but I was determined to keep fighting for their sake. One evening, a few weeks later, I received an unexpected visitor, Megan, Lisa's best friend. She looked anxious as she stood on my doorstep. "John, can we talk?" she asked. "Sure," I replied, stepping aside to let her in. We sat down in the living room, and Megan wasted no time getting to the point. "I've been talking to Lisa. She's a mess right now, and she's blaming Mr. Thompson for everything. She feels trapped and doesn't know what to do." I sighed, feeling a pang of sympathy despite everything. "What do you want me to do, Megan?" "She needs help, John. She's not thinking clearly, and I'm worried about her. But more importantly, I'm worried about the kids. They need their mother, but not like this." "I know," I said quietly, "but I can't let her back into their lives until she gets her act together. I won't put them at risk." Megan nodded. "I understand. I just thought you should know what's going on. Maybe you could help her somehow." I promised Megan I'd think about it, and she left looking a bit more hopeful. That night, I lay in bed, thinking about what she'd said. Despite everything, Lisa was still the mother of my children. If there was a way to help her get back on track, without putting the kids in danger, I had to consider it. The next day, I called my lawyer and explained the situation. He suggested setting up a meeting with a family therapist to see if we could find a way forward. I agreed, hoping it might lead to a solution that would benefit everyone. A few days later, we had our first session with the therapist. Lisa was resistant at first, but eventually, she agreed to participate. It wasn't easy, and there were plenty of tense moments, but slowly, we started making progress. Lisa admitted to her mistakes and began to take responsibility for her actions. She agreed to continue therapy and work on herself, and I promised to support her efforts, as long as it was in the best interest of the kids. It was a long road, and there were no guarantees. But for the sake of our children, I was willing to try. One step at a time, we began to rebuild the trust that had been shattered, hoping to create a better future for Jack and Emily. Therapy sessions continued, and slowly, we began to see some progress. Lisa started to open up about her feelings of neglect and loneliness, and I began to understand some of the reasons behind her actions, though it didn't excuse them. It was a painful process, but it was necessary if we were going to find any semblance of peace for our kids. During this time, Lisa had supervised visits with Jack and Emily. At first, the visits were tense, with the kids unsure how to act around her, But gradually they began to relax and enjoy their time with her. I made sure to stay involved, ensuring the kids knew they could talk to me about anything. One day, after a particularly good session with the therapist, Lisa approached me. "John, I know I've put you through hell, and I don't expect you to forgive me easily. But I want to thank you for giving me a chance to be a better mother." I nodded, feeling a mix of emotions. "I'm doing this for the kids, Lisa. They need both of us in their lives, but I need to know you're committed to changing." "I am," she said, her voice sincere. "I know it'll take time, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes." With cautious optimism, we continued down this path. The kids seemed happier, and the tension in our interactions began to ease. However, I couldn't shake the feeling that something unexpected was around the corner. A few weeks later, I received a call from an unknown number. "Hello?" I answered, curious. "John, it's Megan. I need to talk to you about something urgent." We arranged to meet at a park nearby. When I arrived, Megan looked troubled. "What's going on, Megan?" I asked, concerned. She took a deep breath. "John, there's something you need to know about Mr. Thompson. He's been pressuring Lisa to get back together with him. He's not happy about her trying to fix things with you and the kids." My stomach tightened. "What do you mean, pressuring her?" "He's been threatening her, saying he'll ruin her career if she doesn't comply. She's scared, John." This news hit me like a ton of bricks. I knew Mr. Thompson was trouble, but I hadn't realized the extent of his manipulative behavior. "Why didn't Lisa tell me?" "She's afraid, John. She didn't want to burden you or jeopardize her chances with the kids." I took a deep breath, trying to process this information. "Thank you for telling me, Megan. I'll handle it." That evening, I confronted Lisa. "Why didn't you tell me about Mr. Thompson?" Her eyes widened in surprise. "How did you find out?" "Megan told me." "Why didn't you come to me? We're supposed to be working together for the kids." Lisa looked down, tears welling in her eyes. "I was scared, John. He has a lot of power at work, and I didn't want to cause more trouble." "We need to put an end to this, Lisa. You can't keep living in fear. We'll talk to my lawyer and figure out the best way to handle this." With the help of my lawyer, we filed a restraining order against Mr. Thompson and reported his behavior to his superiors. It was a difficult process, but we knew it was the right thing to do. Lisa also decided to leave her job and look for a new one, where she could start fresh without the shadow of Mr. Thompson looming over her. As the situation with Mr. Thompson resolved, I felt a sense of relief. For the first time in months, it seemed like we were on a path to stability. Lisa continued her therapy, and we worked together to create a better environment for our kids. Jack and Emily started to thrive in the more peaceful atmosphere. They did better in school and seemed happier overall. Seeing their smiles made all the struggles worth it. One evening, after putting the kids to bed, Lisa and I sat down to talk. "John, I know I've done a lot of damage, and I'm not asking for forgiveness, but I want you to know that I'm committed to being a better mother in person." "I can see that, Lisa," I replied, feeling a sense of hope. "We've been through a lot, but the kids need us to be strong for them. We need to keep working on this, for their sake." She nodded. "Agreed, one step at a time." As we navigated this new chapter, I realized that while our marriage might never be the same, we could still work together to create a loving and supportive environment for Jack and Emily. It was a fragile piece, but it was a start. With the restraining order in place and Mr. Thompson out of the picture, things began to settle down. Lisa found a new job at a smaller company where she could focus on her work without the toxic influence of her former boss. She seemed more at ease, and our co-parenting arrangement started to run more smoothly. The kids adjusted well to the new routine. They spent their weekdays with me and their weekends with Lisa, who now had supervised visits at a family center. It wasn't perfect, but it worked for the time being. One afternoon, while the kids were with Lisa, I received a call from the family center supervisor. "Mr. Smith, I thought you should know that Lisa had a bit of a breakdown today. She's okay, but it was quite a scene." My heart sank. "What happened?" "She was talking to the kids about the divorce and started crying. She said some things that upset them." "Thank you for letting me know. I'll talk to the kids when they get home." When Jack and Emily returned that evening, I sat them down for a talk. "I heard you had a tough time with Mom today," I said gently. Jack looked down, his face troubled. "She was crying a lot, Dad. She said it was all her fault." Emily nodded, her eyes wide with concern. Is Mom going to be okay? I sighed, feeling the weight of their worry. Mom is going through a tough time right now, but she's getting help. It's important for you both to remember that none of this is your fault. Your mom and I are doing our best to make things better. The kids seemed to accept my reassurance, but I knew it was crucial to address Lisa's behavior. I called her that night. Lisa, we need to talk about what happened today. She sounded exhausted. I know, John. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to upset them. I understand you're going through a lot, but you can't put that burden on the kids. They're trying to adjust, and they need us to be strong for them. I know, she said, her voice breaking. I'm trying, John. I really am. We'll get through this, I said, trying to sound confident. But we need to keep our focus on the kids. The following weeks were challenging. Lisa continued her therapy, and I did my best to support her from a distance. The kids seemed to settle into the new normal, but I could tell they were still processing everything. One evening, while we were having dinner, Emily looked up at me with a serious expression. Dad, do you still love Mom? The question caught me off guard. I took a moment to gather my thoughts. Emily, your mom and I will always care about each other because we share a history and because we love you and Jack. But sometimes love changes. We're doing our best to figure out what that means for us. Jack nodded, seeming to understand. I just want everyone to be happy again. We're working on it, buddy, I said, giving him a reassuring smile. It's going to take time, but we'll get there. As the months passed, we settled into a new routine. Lisa's visits became more consistent, and the kids seemed happier. I started to feel a sense of normalcy returning to our lives. One day, Lisa called me with some news. John, my therapist thinks I'm ready to have unsupervised visits with the kids. I wanted to discuss it with you first. I felt a mix of emotions. I was proud of her progress, but also anxious about the potential impact on the kids. Let's talk about it, I said. We need to make sure the kids are comfortable with it, too. We arranged a meeting with the therapist to discuss the transition. The therapist suggested a gradual approach, starting with short unsupervised visits and gradually increasing the time as everyone adjusted. The first unsupervised visit was nerve-wracking. I spent the entire day worrying, but when the kids came back, they were all smiles. We had a great time with Mom, Emily exclaimed. We went to the park and had ice cream. Jack nodded enthusiastically. It was fun, Dad. I felt a wave of relief. I'm glad to hear that, kids. As the visits continued, Lisa and I communicated more openly about the kids' needs and our plans for co-parenting. We started to rebuild a sense of trust, focusing on our shared goal of providing a stable and loving environment for Jack and Emily. One evening, as I was tucking the kids into bed, Emily looked up at me and said, Dad, I think things are getting better. I smiled, feeling a warmth in my heart. I think so too, sweetheart. We're all doing our best. Life wasn't perfect, but we were finding a way forward. The road had been long and filled with challenges, but we were finally beginning to see the light at the end of the tunnel. As the months went by, the gradual shift in our co-parenting arrangement continued to show positive results. Lisa's unsupervised visits became more frequent, and the kids seemed genuinely happier. It was a relief to see some normalcy returning to our lives. One day, Lisa called me with a request. John, my parents are coming to town next weekend and they want to spend time with the kids. I was thinking we could all go out together. It might be good for the kids to see us getting along. I hesitated. The memories of our past still raw, but I knew it was important for the kids. All right, Lisa, I think that's a good idea. That Saturday, we met at a local park. Lisa's parents, who had always been supportive, greeted me warmly. The kids ran off to play, and for the first time in a long while, I felt a sense of peace. As we watched the kids play, Lisa's mom, Karen, turned to me. John, we want to thank you for everything you've done. We know it hasn't been easy. I nodded, feeling a lump in my throat. I'm just trying to do what's best for the kids. Lisa's dad, Tom, chimed in. We appreciate it more than you know, and we're here to help in any way we can. The day went smoothly, and for a few hours, it almost felt like old times. We laughed, shared stories, and enjoyed the company. It was a reminder that despite everything, we were still a family, bound by the love we had for Jack and Emily. After the outing, Lisa and I sat down to talk. I'm really glad we did this, she said. The kids had a great time. Yeah, they did, I agreed. It was good for them to see us getting along. Lisa looked thoughtful. I've been thinking a lot about the future, John. I know we can't go back to how things were, but maybe we can build something new, a better way to co-parent. I agree, I said. We need to keep working on this, for the kids. The next few weeks were filled with a cautious optimism. Lisa and I continued to communicate openly, and the kids seemed to thrive in the more stable environment. But just as things were starting to settle, another unexpected event shook our fragile peace. One evening, I received a call from Lisa. She sounded panicked. John, Mr. Thompson is back. He's been contacting me, trying to get me to meet him. My heart sank. What? I thought he was out of the picture. I did too, she said, her voice trembling. But he's been persistent. I'm scared, John. We need to go back to the court and reinforce the restraining order, I said firmly. You can't let him manipulate you again. The next day, we met with our lawyer and explained the situation. We filed for a stronger restraining order and notified the authorities about Mr. Thompson's harassment. It was a stressful time, but I knew we had to protect Lisa and the kids from his toxic influence. During this period, I noticed a change in Lisa. She was more determined, more focused on her recovery and her relationship with the kids. It was clear that she was trying her best to make amends and rebuild her life. One afternoon, while the kids were at school, Lisa came over to talk. John, I want to thank you for standing by me through all of this. I know I've made a lot of mistakes, but I'm committed to being a better person and mother. I nodded, feeling a sense of closure. We've all been through a lot, Lisa, but I can see you're trying, and that means a lot. She looked at me, tears in her eyes. I know we can't change the past, but maybe we can create a better future for the kids. I'm willing to do whatever it takes. We're on the same page, I said. Let's keep working together. As we continued to navigate this new chapter, it became clear that our relationship, though changed, was evolving into something more positive. We weren't the same people we once were, but we were both committed to making things work for Jack and Emily. The journey wasn't over, and there were still challenges ahead. But for the first time in a long time, I felt hopeful. We had come a long way, and together, we were creating a new, normal VDJ1 that prioritized the happiness and well-being of our children above all else. With the new restraining order in place and the authorities aware of Mr. Thompson's harassment, Lisa and I began to feel more secure. Our priority remained clear: the well-being of Jack and Emily. We continued to focus on creating a stable and loving environment for them, working together as co-parents. One evening, while I was helping Jack with his homework, he looked up at me and asked, "Dad, are you and Mom friends again?" The question took me by surprise. I thought for a moment before answering, "We're working on being good co-parents, Jack. We both love you and Emily very much, and we want to make sure you're happy and safe." He nodded thoughtfully. "I'm glad you're not fighting anymore." "Me too, buddy," I said, ruffling his hair. "Now let's finish this math problem." As the months went by, Lisa and I found a rhythm that worked for our family. We communicated regularly about the kids, attended their school events together, and coordinated holidays and birthdays. It was an adjustment, but it was worth it to see Jack and Emily thriving. One Saturday, we decided to take the kids on a camping trip. It was something we used to do as a family, and we hoped it would help create some positive memories for the kids. We packed up the car and headed to a nearby state park. The trip was a success. We hiked, roasted marshmallows, and told stories around the campfire. The kids loved being outdoors, and it felt good to spend time together in a relaxed setting. One night, as we sat by the fire, Emily snuggled up next to me. "Dad, I'm really happy we're all here together," she said softly. I hugged her tightly. "Me too, sweetheart, me too." As the weeks turned into months, Lisa continued her therapy and remained committed to her personal growth. She found solace in a local support group for parents going through divorce, which helped her navigate the challenges she faced. I admired her determination to change and provide a better life for our children. One day, Lisa approached me with an idea. "John, I've been thinking. I know we can't change the past, but maybe we could start a new tradition for the kids. Something that shows we're still a family, even if we're not together." "What do you have in mind?" I asked, curious. "How about a monthly family game night? We can take turns hosting it, and it'll give the kids something to look forward to." I smiled, appreciating the thoughtfulness behind her suggestion. "I think that's a great idea, Lisa. The kids will love it, Our first family game night was a hit. We played board games, laughed, and enjoyed each other's company. It was a small step, but it represented a significant shift in our relationship. We were no longer just co-parents navigating a difficult situation. We were building a new kind of family dynamic. As we continued to focus on our children, Lisa and I also began to explore our own interests and hobbies. I took up woodworking, finding it therapeutic to create something tangible with my hands. Lisa started painting again, rediscovering a passion she had put aside years ago. These activities not only provided a creative outlet, but also helped us grow individually. One evening, after a particularly fun game night, Lisa and I sat on the porch, watching the kids play in the yard. "I'm really proud of how far we've come," she said, breaking the comfortable silence. "Me too," I replied. "It's been a tough journey, but we're making it work." She looked at me, her expression sincere. "Thank you, John, for everything. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'm grateful for the chance to be a better mother in person." I nodded, feeling a sense of closure. We're doing this for the kids, and that's what matters most. We'll keep moving forward, one step at a time. As the sun set, casting a warm glow over the yard, I realized that we had created something beautiful out of a difficult situation. Our journey was far from over, but we were on the right path. Together, we would continue to strengthen the bonds of our redefined family, providing a loving and supportive environment for Jack and Emily. As the seasons changed, so did our lives. The routine we had established brought a sense of stability and comfort to our family. Jack and Emily were thriving, excelling in school, and enjoying their time with both parents. The monthly game nights became a cherished tradition, something we all looked forward to. One day, Lisa called me with exciting news. "John, I got a promotion at work. It's a big step up, and it means more stability for me and the kids." "That's great news, Lisa," I said genuinely. "I'm happy for you." "Thanks, John. I couldn't have done it without your support. I really appreciate it." As Lisa continued to build her career, I also found new opportunities at my job. I received a promotion of my own, which meant more responsibility, but also more flexibility. This allowed me to be even more present for the kids, something I cherished deeply. One weekend, I decided to take the kids on a surprise trip to the beach. It was a place we used to visit often, and I wanted to rekindle those happy memories. We packed up the car early on Saturday morning and set off on our adventure. When we arrived at the beach, the kids' faces lit up with joy. "I can't believe we're here!" Emily exclaimed, running towards the waves. Jack followed, his laughter echoing across the sand. "This is awesome, Dad!" We spent the day building sandcastles, swimming, and collecting seashells. As the sun began to set, we gathered around a bonfire and roasted marshmallows. It was a perfect day, filled with love and happiness. As we sat by the fire, Emily looked up at me and said, "Dad, do you think we can come back here every year?" I smiled, feeling a warmth in my heart. "Of course, sweetheart. We'll make it a new tradition." Back home, the positive changes continued. Lisa and I worked hard to maintain open communication and mutual respect. We had found a way to co-parent that prioritized the kids' happiness and well-being. It wasn't always easy, but it was worth it. One evening, after a particularly long day at work, I received a call from Lisa. "John, I wanted to run something by you. There's a charity event at my job next month, and I was thinking it might be nice for us to go together with the kids. It could be a good way to show them that we're still a team." I thought about it for a moment. "I think that's a great idea, Lisa. Let's do it." The charity event was a success. We dressed up, attended the gala, and even won a raffle prize together. The kids were thrilled, and it felt good to show them that despite everything, we were still united in our love for them. As the years passed, the bonds we had worked so hard to rebuild grew stronger. Jack and Emily flourished in their new normal, surrounded by the love and support of both parents. Lisa and I continued to grow as individuals, finding fulfillment in our careers and personal lives. One day, Lisa approached me with a new proposal. "John, I've been thinking a lot about the future. I know we've come a long way, and I think it's time we considered formalizing our co-parenting arrangement. Maybe we could draft a new agreement that reflects the progress we've made and the stability we've achieved." I nodded, appreciating her foresight. "I think that's a great idea, Lisa. It'll give us a clear framework and ensure that we're always on the same page for the kids." We worked with our lawyers to create a new co-parenting agreement that outlined our responsibilities and commitments. It was a testament to the journey we had been on, a journey filled with challenges, growth, and ultimately, a renewed sense of family. As we signed the agreement, I looked at Lisa and said, "We've come a long way, haven't we?" She smiled, her eyes reflecting the same sense of accomplishment. "We have, John, and I'm proud of what we've built together." Life continued to move forward, with new opportunities and challenges. But through it all, we remained dedicated to our children and to the family we had redefined. We had turned a painful past into a hopeful future, and that was something worth celebrating. The new co-parenting agreement brought a sense of clarity and stability to our lives. It outlined our shared responsibilities and commitments, ensuring that Jack and Emily's well-being remained our top priority. With this foundation in place, Lisa and I continued to navigate our roles as co-parents, working together to provide a loving and supportive environment for our children. One weekend, we decided to have a family meeting to discuss our plans for the upcoming school year. The kids were excited about their new classes and activities, and we wanted to make sure we were all on the same page. "All right, guys," I began, gathering everyone in the living room. "Let's talk about your schedules and how we can make sure everything runs smoothly." Jack and Emily eagerly shared their plans. Jack was joining the school's soccer team, while Emily had signed up for ballet lessons. Lisa and I took notes, coordinating our calendars to ensure we could attend their events and support them in their activities. "We're going to be busy, but we'll make it work," Lisa said with a smile. "We're a team, remember?" The kids nodded enthusiastically, and I couldn't help but feel proud of how far we had come. We were no longer just surviving, we were thriving as a family. As the school year progressed, our lives became a whirlwind of soccer games, ballet recitals, and school projects. Lisa and I attended every event, cheering on our children and celebrating their achievements. It was a testament to our commitment to being present and involved in their lives. One evening, after a particularly busy week, Lisa called me. "John, I've been thinking. The kids have been doing so well, and I was wondering if we could plan a special family vacation, something to reward them for their hard work and to create more positive memories." I thought it was a fantastic idea. "I love it. Let's start planning." We decided on a trip to Disneyland, a place the kids had always dreamed of visiting. When we told Jack and Emily about the trip, their faces lit up with excitement. It was moments like these that made all the hard work and challenges worthwhile. The trip was a magical experience. We spent a week exploring the park, going on rides, and enjoying the various attractions. The kids were over the moon, and Lisa and I cherished the opportunity to create such special memories with them. One evening, as we watched the fireworks over the castle, Emily snuggled up next to me. "Dad, this is the best trip ever. Thank you for making it so special." I hugged her tightly, feeling a sense of fulfillment. "You're welcome, sweetheart. I'm glad we could do this together." Back home, life resumed its busy pace, but the memories of our trip continued to bring smiles to our faces. Lisa and I remained dedicated to our co-parenting journey, finding new ways to support each other and our children. One day I received a call from Megan, Lisa's best friend. "John, I wanted to check in and see how things are going. It's been a while since we last talked." I updated her on our progress and the positive changes in our lives. Megan was genuinely happy for us and offered her continued support. "You've done an amazing job, John. The kids are lucky to have such dedicated parents." As the years went by, Jack and Emily grew into confident, well-rounded individuals. They excelled in school, pursued their passions, and maintained strong relationships with both Lisa and me. We continued to navigate the challenges of co-parenting, always keeping our children's best interests at heart. One evening, after another successful family game night, Lisa and I sat down to reflect on our journey. "We've come a long way," she said, a smile playing on her lips. "We have," I agreed, "and I'm proud of what we've accomplished together." Lisa nodded, her eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you, John, for everything. I know it hasn't been easy, but we've created something truly special for our kids." I smiled, feeling a deep sense of satisfaction. We have, and we'll keep moving forward, one step at a time. Life had thrown us many challenges, but we had faced them head-on, united in our love for Jack and Emily. We had transformed our pain into strength, our struggles into growth, and our family into a beacon of hope and resilience. As the sun set on another day, I looked at my children and felt a profound sense of gratitude. We had built a new normal, one filled with love, support, and unwavering dedication. And as we continued our journey, I knew that together we could overcome any obstacle and create a future filled with joy and endless possibilities. With the school year in full swing and our family settling into a comfortable routine, things were looking up. But as life often goes, new challenges were on the horizon, testing our resilience and unity. One afternoon, Jack came home from school looking unusually quiet. I noticed his demeanor right away and asked, "Hey buddy, everything okay?" He shrugged, avoiding eye contact. "Just some stuff at school." I knew better than to press him too hard right away. "All right, well, if you ever want to talk about it, I'm here." A few days later, I received a call from Jack V. DJTM, school counselor. "Mr. Smith, I think we need to discuss some issues Jack has been facing at school. Could you and Mrs. Smith come in for a meeting?" I felt a knot in my stomach. "Of course, we'll be there." Lisa and I met with the counselor the next day. She explained that Jack had been struggling with some bullying issues. My heart sank as she detailed the incidents. "He hasn't told us any of this," I said, feeling a mix of anger and sadness. "It's common for kids to keep these things to themselves," the counselor said gently. "We're here to support him and help him through this." Lisa and I took immediate action. We had a long talk with Jack, reassuring him that it wasn't his fault and that we were there to help. We also worked with the school to ensure they were taking steps to address the bullying and create a safer environment for all students. Meanwhile, Emily began to face her own challenges. She struggled with some of her classes and started to fall behind. Her frustration was palpable, and it broke my heart to see her confidence wane. "We'll get you the help you need," I promised her. "We're in this together." We hired a tutor for Emily, and I spent extra time helping her with her homework. Slowly but surely, she began to regain her confidence and catch up in her classes. Seeing her progress was incredibly rewarding. Throughout these challenges, Lisa and I continued to work together, presenting a united front for the kids. Our co-parenting relationship had become a source of strength for both of us, and it was clear that the kids benefited from our collaboration. One evening, as we sat down for dinner, Emily looked up and said, "I got an A on my math test today." "That's fantastic, Emily," Lisa exclaimed, beaming with pride. Jack chimed in, "And I stood up to the bully at school. The counselor helped a lot." I felt a surge of pride and relief. "I'm so proud of both of you. You're both so strong and capable." Life continued to throw challenges our way, but we faced them head-on, drawing strength from each other. Jack and Emily learned valuable lessons about resilience and perseverance, and Lisa and I became even more dedicated to providing a stable and supportive environment for them. One weekend, we decided to take a short trip to the mountains for a change of scenery. We rented a cabin and spent our days hiking, fishing, and enjoying the beauty of nature. The kids loved the adventure, and it was a much-needed break from the daily grind. One evening, as we sat around a campfire roasting marshmallows, Jack turned to me and said, "Dad, I'm really glad we did this. It's been great to get away." "Me too, Jack," I replied, feeling a sense of contentment. Sometimes a little change of scenery is just what we need. As we returned to our daily lives, we felt rejuvenated and ready to face whatever came next. The challenges we had faced had made us stronger as a family, and we knew that we could handle anything as long as we stuck together. One afternoon, I received a call from Lisa. "John, I've been offered a new job. It's a great opportunity, but it means I'll need to travel more." I felt a mix of emotions. "That's great news, Lisa, but how will it affect the kids?" "I've thought about that," she said. "I want to make sure it doesn't disrupt their lives too much. Maybe we can adjust the custody schedule to accommodate my travel." We sat down and discussed the logistics, always keeping the kids' best interests in mind. It was a balancing act, but we were committed to making it work. The new job brought new challenges, but it also brought new opportunities for growth. Lisa thrived in her new role, and the kids adapted to the changes with remarkable resilience. Our family continued to evolve, always finding new ways to support each other and stay connected. As we moved forward, I realized that our journey was far from over. There would always be new challenges to face and new opportunities to embrace. But through it all, we remained united by our love for Jack and Emily, and our commitment to creating a happy, healthy, and supportive family. As Lisa's new job required more travel, we adjusted our co-parenting schedule to ensure the kids maintained a sense of stability. The flexibility of my own job allowed me to be more present for Jack and Emily, which helped smooth the transition. Despite the changes, the kids adapted well. They were growing stronger and more resilient with each passing day. Lisa and I maintained our commitment to open communication, regularly discussing any concerns and making sure we were always on the same page. One evening, while Lisa was away on a business trip, the kids and I decided to have a movie night. We made popcorn, snuggled on the couch, and watched one of their favorite films. It was a simple but special moment, reminding me of the importance of these little joys. After the movie, Jack turned to me and asked, "Dad, do you ever miss the way things used to be when we were all together?" His question hit me hard. I took a moment to gather my thoughts before answering. "Sometimes I do, Jack, but I also know that we're in a better place now. We've all grown and learned a lot, and we're still a family, even if things are different." Emily nodded. "I like that we do fun things together, and I'm happy that you and Mom are friends now." I smiled, feeling a warmth in my heart. "Me too, Emily. We've come a long way, and I'm proud of all of us." As the months went by, we continued to find a balance that worked for our family. Lisa's travel schedule became more predictable, allowing us to plan our time with the kids more effectively. We also made a point to include her in our family activities whenever possible, ensuring that Jack and Emily felt connected to both of us. One weekend, Lisa suggested we take a family trip to visit her parents. It had been a while since we'd seen them, and the kids were excited about the idea. We agreed and made plans for the visit. The trip was a success. Lisa's parents were thrilled to see the kids, and we all enjoyed spending time together. It was a reminder that, despite the changes in our relationship, we were still connected by the bonds of family. During the trip, Lisa and I had a chance to talk privately. "John, I want to thank you for being so supportive. I know my job has added some challenges, but you have handled everything so well." "We're a team, Lisa," I said. "We've been through a lot, but we've always put the kids first. That's what matters most." She nodded, her eyes reflecting a deep appreciation. "I'm grateful for that, and I'm proud of how far we've come." As we continued to navigate our co-parenting journey, we faced new challenges and celebrated new milestones. Jack and Emily grew closer, finding strength in their sibling bond. They excelled in school, pursued their interests, and developed a sense of confidence and independence. One evening, while we were having dinner, Jack announced, "I made the soccer team. I can't wait for the first game." "That's fantastic, Jack," I said, beaming with pride. "We'll all be there to cheer you on." Emily chimed in, "And I got the lead role in the school play. It's going to be so much fun." "That's amazing, Emily. We can't wait to see you perform," Lisa said, her face glowing with pride. As we celebrated their achievements, I couldn't help but feel a deep sense of gratitude. We had faced so many challenges, but we had come out stronger on the other side. Our family was thriving, and we were creating a future filled with love, support, and endless possibilities. One weekend, we decided to host a neighborhood barbecue. It was a way to connect with our community and celebrate the positive changes in our lives. Friends and neighbors gathered in our backyard, sharing food, laughter, and stories. As the sun set and the evening drew to a close, Lisa and I stood together, watching the kids play with their friends. "We've built something really special here," she said softly. "We have," I agreed, "and I'm excited to see what the future holds." Life continued to move forward, bringing new adventures and challenges. But through it all, we remained united by our love for Jack and Emily and our commitment to creating a happy, healthy, and supportive family. As we looked ahead, we knew that whatever came our way, we would face it together, stronger, wiser, and more resilient than ever before. As the years went by, our family continued to grow and evolve. Jack and Emily blossomed into remarkable young adults, each pursuing their dreams and passions. Lisa and I maintained our strong co-parenting relationship, always prioritizing the well-being of our children. One spring afternoon, Jack came home with some exciting news. "Dad, I've been accepted into my top choice for college. I'm going to study engineering." I felt a surge of pride and joy. "That's incredible, Jack. You've worked so hard for this. I'm so proud of you." Emily, not wanting to be left out, announced, And I got a scholarship for my dance program. I can't wait to start. That's amazing, Emily. Both of you have accomplished so much, Lisa said, her eyes shining with pride. We decided to celebrate these milestones with a family dinner at our favorite restaurant. As we toasted to Jack and Emily's achievements, I couldn't help but reflect on how far we had come. Despite the challenges and obstacles, we had built a strong, loving family. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset, Lisa turned to me and said, "John, I've been thinking a lot about the future. The kids are growing up, and soon they'll be off on their own adventures. It's time for us to think about what's next for us, too." I nodded, understanding her sentiment. "You're right. We've focused so much on the kids, and now it's time for us to consider our own paths." Lisa continued, "I've been offered an opportunity to lead a new project at work. It's a big step and it means more travel, but it's something I'm passionate about." "That's fantastic, Lisa. You should go for it. You've always been dedicated to your career, and this sounds like an amazing opportunity." "What about you?" she asked. "Have you thought about what you want to do?" I smiled. "I have. I've been considering starting my own woodworking business. It's something I love, and I think it's time to take the plunge." Lisa reached out and squeezed my hand. "I think that's a wonderful idea. You've got the talent and the passion for it." As we sat there discussing our dreams and plans for the future, I realized how much we had grown. We had transitioned from a broken couple struggling through a painful divorce to strong co-parents supporting each other's goals and aspirations. The day Jack left for college was bittersweet. We helped him pack, loaded up the car, and drove him to campus. As we stood in his dorm room, I felt a mix of pride and sadness. My little boy was all grown up. "Dad, thanks for everything," Jack said, hugging me tightly. "I couldn't have done this without you and Mom." "We're so proud of you, Jack," Lisa said, tears in her eyes. "You're going to do great things." Emily's turn came soon after, as she moved into her own apartment to focus on her dance program. We helped her settle in, making sure she had everything she needed. "Mom, Dad, you've always been my biggest supporters," she said, hugging us both. "I'm so grateful for everything." As we drove home, the house felt a bit emptier without the kids, but Lisa and I knew this was the next step in our journey. We continued to support each other, finding new ways to stay connected with Jack and Emily, while also focusing on our own passions. One evening, as I worked in my newly established woodworking shop, Lisa stopped by to visit. "Your business is really taking off," she said, admiring the pieces I had created. "Thanks, Lisa. It's been a lot of work, but it's also been incredibly rewarding." "I'm proud of you," she said sincerely. "You've created something amazing." "And I'm proud of you too," I replied. "Your work is making a real difference." We stood there, appreciating the moment. Our journey had been long and filled with challenges, but we had emerged stronger and more united than ever. As the years continued to pass, we watched Jack and Emily grow into accomplished, independent individuals. They pursued their dreams with the same determination and resilience they had learned from us. And through it all, Lisa and I remained a constant source of support and love for each other and our children. We had transformed a painful past into a hopeful future, and our family was a testament to the power of love, forgiveness, and perseverance. Life was full of new adventures and possibilities, and we embraced each one with open hearts and minds. Together, we faced whatever came our way, knowing that as long as we had each other, we could overcome anything. And as the sun set on another day, I looked at Lisa and knew that our journey was far from over. We had many more chapters to write, and I was excited to see what the future held for us and our family.